You are recording. Look.
Oh, okay. How do I sound? Do I sound okay?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. Hi, George Markoski here from Positive Property, and I've got Ben Simmons on the line now over Zoom, and we're talking about a subject that a lot of South Australians have been talking about, and we're talking about land tax. Ben, how are you? Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, George. I'm well.
And we're going live here, so everyone on Facebook, hello. Please put some comments in. We'll be messaging you back very soon. Okay, so the Liberal Party have suddenly come out with this land tax issue at the moment, because I recall that prior to the election, Steve Marshall was saying about how he wasn't going to increase any taxes and make South Australia more competitive. What happened to all that?
Oh, it's either been forgotten or it was a bit of a plan from the start to just sell people to get them into power and then twist and turn after they won the election. It's just wildly disappointing, not just to me, but a lot of people.
Yeah, it was very surprising because, I mean, on a federal level, what happened was Bill Shorten came in and he actually didn't, at least he didn't hide it, but he came in with this, you know, let's get rid of negative gearing, let's pay all this extra tax on, what was it, inheritance tax or something else like that?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, he wanted to tax the shit out of everyone, as Labor normally does. And Australia woke up and said, forget this. We're just going to vote in Liberals and forget this tax, right? Luckily, he didn't hide it like Marshall did. Otherwise, he could have got in, because that's what really destroyed him, I think, because people saw that economically he wasn't sound. I mean, Winston Churchill, he once said, you can't tax your way to prosperity. It's just impossible. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So the Liberals have done a massive turn. We've had 16 years of Labor in South Australia, which has been, everyone thought it was pretty challenging. And we expected a ray of sunshine of Liberals, and everyone's been working hard to get them back in. And now suddenly things have just completely changed. It's almost like they've changed positions. It's almost like the Liberal Party is really the Labor Party.
I had that exact conversation with someone today. That's exactly what it seems like.
It's crazy because, you know, we live in a capitalist society, and in a capitalist society, we sort of, we appreciate people having the opportunity to earn more and make more. Because, you know, you look at America was capitalist and Russia, USSR was communist. And in USSR, they punished you for thinking outside the square or working harder. You just didn't happen, right? They punished you for being successful. And what happened? They had a shit economy. Look at the cars that USSR made, and look at the cars that America made. Look at the stuff that America made, the stuff that USSR made. It was just completely different. Look at the lifestyle. People lived a good lifestyle in America. They lived a bad lifestyle in USSR. And a lot of that was to do with the way we incentivize people to work harder and get more in life, because without incentive, it makes it really difficult.
Absolutely. You've got to encourage people to give people the opportunity to better themselves and better their situation.
Exactly. And I think that's the whole point of having, you know, democracy and having liberalism and being free, to the pursuit of happiness. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So tell me, what are the Liberals doing? Why are they doing this? What's going on? What do you think? Because you know a bit about this.
I don't know if anyone actually knows a bit about what their plan is or what they're thinking, because none of it makes sense. The people I'm talking to can't make sense of it. The only rationale that I could possibly think of is because South Australia is a net negative GST state, so that means we get more from the federal government than we put into the economy as far as GST contributions. Yep. So the only thing that makes sense from a business standpoint is the Treasurer is trying to trap and unlock as much money into South Australia before it departs South Australia to a federal tax system.
Right.
So the only way that can be done is through levies and taxes on South Australian citizens or South Australian asset holders. So that's the only thing I can think of that makes sense to me as to why they would want this to happen.
Yes, but okay. So the Liberal who got rid of the GST, the capital gains on commercial properties? Was that Liberal or Labor?
No, it wasn't. Not the capital gains. It was the stamp duty payable on commercial.
Yeah. Who got rid of stamp duty on commercial?
That was the Labor Party.
Labor Party, yep. So they got rid of stamp duty
Yep.
commercial, right?
Yeah.
Which looks like a liberal policy to me.
Very much so.
Because
the
average mum and dad don't have a commercial property, okay? This is the fact. Commercial properties are mainly owned by people that are got a bit more skill and got a bit more money behind them.
Yep.
Would you agree?
Fair to say.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So the Labor came in and gave all these business landlords a massive saving on stamp duty, right? Which we lost a lot of money in the state because that would have been GST free.
Yep.
Now,
and remember that's only a one-off payment though too. So
one-off payment, but but it's still we're helping people that are buying. I mean, the more money you've got, the bigger building you're buying, the more money you save.
Yep, agreed.
So people buying a $10 million building or $20 million building, they're saving shitloads. Now,
and the intent of that was to attract investment into South Australia as make South Australia a standout amongst the other states and territories where we had something that was very different here to encourage investment.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. Which is great. So I think I personally think that's a really good thing to do. But now what Liberals have done is they've actually gone the opposite, and they've sort of let's punish the mums and dads. Let's get the money out of them. And I think you know both political parties are guilty of this to a degree, because what happens is there's three sort of demographics that we look at, and you've got the people that are struggling and on the dole and not earning very good wages. Then you've got the middle class that are aspirational middle class, which has been growing in Australia since the 70s quite a bit. And then you've got the super rich and the big corporates. And the thing is, the fact of it is, the most of the taxes in Australia are paid by the middle part of Australia. The bottom half don't pay many taxes, and the super rich don't pay any taxes. But 70% of GDP in Australia is actually by small businesses, which are the aspirational middle class, and the people that make over 80, 90 grand a year. They're paying huge taxes. So the whole tax base is in the middle. And it seems like whenever the government wants money, they go to the middle. Because the guys are the big guys at the top, they're too hard to fight. They've got too much money. The guys at the bottom got no money anyway. So what they do is they turn the people that are a bit poorer, a little bit less well off against the middle class and go, oh yeah, look at those rich bastards. But the middle class aren't rich bastards. They've worked hard, and 90% of them started with nothing. That's the stats. So you look at millionaires, 90% of people are self-made, right? And most people didn't inherit it, because if you inherit it, a lot of people blow it anyway when they inherit it. So we're talking about people that have worked hard to earn their money. And what really gets on my goat, what annoys the shit out of me about the Liberal Party and what they're saying is they're talking about, people taking advantage of loopholes and not paying their fair share. I mean, the fact of it is, this law's been around since 1936?
Yep. 36, 38.
Okay.
Yeah.
So no one was dodging any laws, for one. So that's a lot of bullshit. Two,
it's actually on the LTO's website.
Oh, there you go.
The state government's own website actually says what to do.
Yep, exactly. So the state government...
But apparently it's a loophole, even though they've explained by dot points on how to do it and what the process is.
It's been around since 1936. So it's been around for a long time. And it's been a traditional law that people have just abided by, and people have accumulated their wealth. The thing is, people have already paid their taxes and dues on every property anyway. And when they sell it, they're going to have to pay for it again. So it's not as if they're getting it for free. And we're going to crunch some numbers later on. That's why I've got you on the podcast to talk to you about some numbers. I've looked at some of the numbers, and they're pretty scary. You know what I mean? And it's not good. And the fact of it is, one, no one's trying to avoid tax, or no one's doing anything unfair, except for the government, who are trying to change the rules on us straight away. Now, what happened was, when they changed the negative gearing, the federal government changed the negative gearing. So what they did is, you used to be able to negative gear on a second-hand property, used to be able to negative gear fixtures and fittings, right? And also the building. But now on a property that's not brand new, you can't actually depreciate the fixtures and fittings at all. They've stopped that. However, what they did, they didn't say, well, everyone up yours. They said, we're going to grandfather everyone that's already bought a property under the old laws and just do it in the new stuff, right? Which could be a little bit more fair. I mean, at the end of the day, you can't just change the rules on someone. It's crazy, but that's what they're doing. But at least the federal government has decency of, I was against what they did, and I think it's bad because I really think our building, our housing is one of the biggest employers in Australia. We're huge. We've got a lot of migration. We're the most migration. We've got the fastest growing population, actually, in the Western world.
Right.
People are talking about China and talking about how fast China's growing. Do you realize we're growing 3 times faster than China?
Is that right?
You know why?
Did not know that.
You know why? Because they're all moving here. All the Chinese are moving here, right? And I'm not saying it in a bad way. It's a good thing. Right? Now, but the Chinese, they're going to be spending $60 billion on property in the next 5 years in Australia. That's a lot of money. So, so that's a lot happening there. So let's go back to South Australia and talk about South Australia. So the government, I want to show you this little ad that they played recently because originally they said it was 40 million, didn't they?
Yeah.
And then now what's the number now?
Went to 118 million.
118 million.
Which a lot of people still think that's about half of what it'll actually be.
And then they said that 92% of South Australians are going to be better off.
Ooh. Yeah,
so this is what I don't get. You put in the tax to make more money, but everyone's better off with this new tax. Well, then you're not making more money, are you? So which one is it? You make more money or everyone's better off? And if everyone's better off, why are you trying to sell it to us and tell us it's so good? See, the funny thing is, things that are really good, we don't need to get sold it. It's all very self-evident. We know if something's good. If something's bad, they got to sell it to you. You know what I mean? I'll show you this little ad they did on Facebook, which is interesting. Okay, can you see that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So let's we've penalised. Wow, so they felt penalised that they had to pay so much land tax. But, oh, wow, now it's awesome because we're going to get aggregated and pay more. That's just stupid. That's ridiculous. It doesn't make sense at all.
Correct.
Good on you, Mr. Premier, for looking to do something for the ordinary.
I mean, I bet you she doesn't even know the stats or the numbers. And maybe in one case with her, they cherry-picked her. It may be better off for her. She must have a very expensive investment property. Because if it's a cheap investment property, it wouldn't make a difference. Do you know what I mean? Because the average house in South Australia is 450,000, right?
Yep.
So unless you've got a property worth over $1 million, you're not going to save tax. So the only people who are going to save tax on this is the really super rich. Because if you've got a property worth 10 mil, you're going to save probably nearly 30% of your land tax every year for the rest of your life. But if you've got 3 or 4 properties worth 450,000, just the average investor, you're going to be paying triple the land tax you were paying before. So unless she owns a $20 million building, I don't think she's got the stats right. Good on you, Mr. Premier. Let's go.
Investor, so we don't have to, move into the pot of the pensions that should be there for people who really need them.
There'll be a benefit tonight.
Yeah, you can see how they've worded her up and they've been talking about how it's a benefit to everyone. Like, it's very staged. You can tell, you know what I mean? And, politicians do this sort of thing. That's the fact of it. They like to stage these things. But what annoys me is when they blatantly lie to your face. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
2% of individual investors in South Australia from the changes.
92%, I don't believe that at all. I believe the top 1% are going to benefit greatly. And I want to do some numbers with you later about that.
This whole reform that we are looking at is designed to make South Australia more competitive, but more
competitive. Yes. We're going to charge them more. I mean, let's talk about the downstream effects of this. We're going to talk about that in a second, which is the main problem here. You know what I mean? So
money back into the pockets of ordinary mum and dad investors in South Australia.
A fair land system. Well, we used to have one. It wasn't even that fair. Here we go. I'm back. So look, So they want a more fair land system where it's going to be fair for people that are at the top. So if you've got some big buildings and a lot of land holdings, you're going to be much better off here because they're going to reduce the top rate. You're going to save 30%. So for example, let's do some numbers here. Do you know the numbers off by heart so I can go on my calculator and do this? So currently, let's say, for example, you've got a $5 million building, right? What are you paying land tax at the moment on that?
3.7.
Okay, which is 185,000.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now, with the new tax, what's it going to be?
2.4.
Okay, so 5 million. So 120,000.
Yeah. So
they're going to save a lot of money. There you go.
Yeah.
So you've got a $5 million property. Here it is. The numbers are clear. You're going to save $60,000. Now, let's say you got 3 properties worth $450,000. We're talking land value here, just to keep it simple, right?
Yep.
At the moment, if you had those in different structures, you'd be paying what land tax? Probably minimal. Probably
let's have a look.
couple of thousand.
Something like that.
Yeah. 2 or 3.
Try and get the. So you would 3 at 450. That's 1.35. So you're in the top tier. Well, depending at the moment under the current structure, depending on how you own those assets.
Yeah, let's say they're not aggregated. They're not aggregated.
Not aggregated. So aggregated properties at the moment, I haven't got the current thresholds in front of me, but I think you'd go to the top rate at 3.7. If you had 450, so 1350 would be your total.
Well, but for $450,000 property would be underneath the threshold, wouldn't it?
Yes, sorry, you're right. So you get your first 450 free. So yeah, correct.
So what I'm saying is it's going to be minimal land tax.
Yeah.
Yep. You know, a couple of grand, if that. Because they're not going to be exactly 450, so it's going to be a couple of grand per year. Now, but now with the new land tax, we've got 3 properties. So it's 1.35 million times 0.024%. So that's going to be $32,000.
Got to remember, you get your threshold though. So if you take off your 450, so I've got 21,600.
Okay.
This is how confusing this is.
Thank you.
This is exactly how confusing this is.
Great. So I'm glad I was thinking. So it's going to go from about 1 or 2 grand to 21,000.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So so it's going to go from 1 or 2 grand to 21,000. Now these are the stats. In Australia, 2/3 of property investors are losing money. They're negative geared.
Yeah.
Right? That's just the fact of life. That's the way it is. Right? Because when you've got a property, I mean, the average return on a property is 4.5% in Adelaide. Right? Now, you got that 4.5%, that's gross, not net. That's if you own it. Right? Because an average interest rate is between 4 and 5%. So if you've got a loan on it, you're already at 0. Right? That's the fact of it. And you're losing money. Because you're getting your rent in, but you've got to pay your council rates, you've got to pay your water, and you've got to pay emergency service levy, maintenance, and bits and pieces like that. It all comes out. You know what I mean? You've got to pay a property manager and everything else like that. So, you know, investing in property is more of a long-term thing, and you don't expect to make money straight away when you buy it. You hold it for the long term because properties double every 7, 10, 15 years. And that's what we do in our program in Positive Property, and that's what we teach people how to do. So, you know, I don't mind losing a bit of money. And when I'm buying a property, I normally like to buy a property that costs me around $20 or $30 a week. Because at $20 or $30 a week, you can afford to keep buying them. They're not too expensive and you can wait for them to double. Right. So that's what I encourage people to do. That's a smart way of doing it. And you buy them at $20 or $30 a week in a high growth area. Now, the challenge is if you've got a property and you've got 3 of them, right? And let's say, I mean, most people that invest, their properties cost them -$200, $300 a week each, right? They're not like our investors where they're $20 or $30, right? But even if you're like our investors and they're $30 negative, right? When you've got 3 properties, that's $90. You add another 21,000. That's $590 a week you have to pay. Now, the challenge is the land tax. is it's a gross tax because it doesn't take in consideration if you're losing money or making money. And if you're paying a 4% mortgage and then you chuck another 2.5% on top, nearly, right? It's almost like two mortgages.
Yep.
Like one mortgage is bad enough. I don't know about you, but one mortgage is certainly bad enough. We don't need two mortgages on a property. Now, anyone saying that, so we look at this two scenarios, the person with a $5 million property, right? Who's going to save 60 grand a year. And then you got the one that's got three little baby properties at 450,000. And they're going to be spending an extra 21,000 a year. So that's really fair on mums and dads. You know, we're going to give the people with lots of money a bit of a discount and make all the mums and dads pay for it. And the guy with $5 million the property can probably afford it a little bit more because he can probably increase his rent because he's got some big company in there, increase his rent, and then the company will increase their prices and everyone that deals with the company will pay for it. And that's the flow-on effect we talk about because there's two effects we've got to talk about. One is what's going to happen with commercial property, because with commercial, because commercial, even people that got commercial property, they're not all making huge dollars. That's the fact of it. They're all fine-tuned. And me personally, myself, I mean, I've stopped actively investing in South Australia, full stop. And this is the advice I give everyone. Don't touch South Australian property at this point in time until we're clear on what's going on, because we don't know what's going to go on and it's dangerous, it's speculative, and I wouldn't touch it. I'm putting all my money in Queensland at the moment, and that's what I'm encouraging all our members to do, and that's what they're doing. And in Queensland, there's a lot of growth. It's awesome. The stamp duty is cheaper. The land tax is cheaper. It's a lot better system. It's much easier, right? And the government's really investing money, and there's a lot of growth. It's amazing. And I've been doing very well out of my Queensland properties, and I'm one of the fortunate ones because I've spread my property portfolio around Australia. So this doesn't personally impact me much at all when it comes to me personally, my properties. However, it's going to affect me because I live in South Australia and I want South Australia to get ahead and keeps going behind. What's the flow-on effect? What do you think is going to happen?
Well, I think if you follow through that train of thought you just said with the commercial property, so professional investors will look to recoup the costs, so they'll be putting rents up. And I've got a friend who's got a hire business. He's saying he's never been busier with people moving properties because landlords are already putting up their prices in anticipation of the increase in the land tax costs.
Yep.
Any commercial property owners will look to, when they get the opportunity, because you know, remember, commercial properties are on a long-term lease. It's not 12 months to 12 months. It might be 10, 15 years before you can renegotiate your position with your tenant. But when they do get to renegotiate those positions, they will be looking to increase the rent to cover the land costs. So from hairdressing, fruit and veg, fuel, the local coffee shop, all these businesses will be raising their prices because their rents will be going up. So for people, the frustrating thing I see on online and social media is a lot of people having a crack at rich people and, this is a rich person's problem and bad luck, you should be paying the tax and you've gotten away with it for too long. What those people don't understand is they're the ones that are actually going to be paying this at the end of the day. This will flow through. There's going to be a hit to the professional investors in the short term, and when I say short term, that's a 3 to 5 year window. The
mid-tier investors are going to get hit because the guys at the top, they're actually saving money. So, so the people that are going, what a great tax, we're going to tax the rich. Well, we're not. We're actually saving them money. So good on you. You know what I mean? And I guess Liberals are doing that. Now, let me show you this slide, which is an interesting slide about Australia and what's been happening, which is, so can you see the slide here? And I want to show you, you look at, this is the median house price in Australia over every decade since 1967.
Yep.
And you look at the beginning here in Adelaide, right? Sydney's 15,000, Brisbane's 9,000, Perth's 10,000, Adelaide's 10,000. You know what I mean? Like, we're up there.
Relatively. Yeah.
Then you look at 77, and look, we're above Brisbane, equal with Perth. We're the same as Melbourne because we had a very strong state then. I mean, we were neck to neck. And then you look here again, we're way above Brisbane again and pretty close to to Melbourne in 87. And then suddenly we start dropping back, and look at us now. We're at the bottom of the pile.
Mm-hmm.
And pretty soon Hobart are going to beat us. You know, it's so you can see that trend in what's happening with Adelaide property prices. And it's pretty shocking when you think about it. You look at that trend, and we were very, very powerful for a long time. And then suddenly we're just losing that. And the challenge is, I mean, with this new land tax, if property prices drop, I mean, the Sydney and Melbourne investors, they're going to be laughing because they can come in here, buy a bargain for next to nothing, because property's dirt cheap in Adelaide as it is. It's undervalued. They're going to buy it for next to nothing. They're not going to have to worry about land tax. They can outbid us because we can't buy it.
Yep.
And
Yep.
Sydney and Melbourne end up owning Adelaide. Like it does, you know, the big states always, you know, which is just crazy, which I think is really sad, you know what I mean? Because I don't want Sydney and Melbourne buying up Adelaide for a bargain and buying up all our property and being our landlords and then putting our rents up. Crazy. So, you know, so I think that property prices have already been depressed. I've spoken to a few real estate agents. I'm interviewing one tomorrow. And what they've been saying is that people are not buying property anymore.
Well, I'm hearing that across the board, that the property market since, you know, what, day 100 or so since this was first suggested, multiple agents saying they're not busy. I was talking to one broker, I got an email from him. He hasn't done a single commercial loan application in 3 months in South Australia.
Wow.
Not look, this is one of the busiest brokers in the state. Real estate agents, you know, complaining the market is seized. So there is a big concern out there, and there's a lot of fear out there, and none of the language that's coming across from the presenters of the land tax is doing anything to alleviate that fear. There's no genuine solution on the table that's palatable. No matter which way you look at what they've proposed, it's a scary proposition.
Now, have they done any modelling at all? What's going on with the modelling? Have they modelled it? Have they done,
well, it depends who you talk to. Well, if you read the fine print of the model that the Liberal Party's put forward, it effectively says don't rely on anything that's in this report.
Yeah, but sometimes they have to do that, I think, don't they? You know.
Yeah. Well, you'd like to think, you know, when you're making wholesale changes to an 80-year-old legislation, that you might invest some time in getting the data correct.
Yeah. So, did they consult any people that are experts in this industry?
I don't know. You know, the people that I've spoken to that I'd consider probably in the top 5 landholders in South Australia, none of those guys have been consulted. So I'm not sure who the consultation is occurring with, but it's certainly not with the people that own property. So, you know, the Liberal Party hasn't been able to put forward who the consultations happen with, which makes you think and question whether it's actually happened. The Labor Party is saying they've seen no modelling at all on this, to the point where there's going to be an inquiry when the bill gets put to the floor, because so many people don't believe the data, because it's just been absolutely jumping at shadows and as they've said, policy on the run.
So what do you mean by inquiry? How does that work?
So, well, unfortunately, I've had to spend a lot of time trying to work out how the political system in South Australia works. So what the inquiry will do is basically investigate the proposition of the Liberal Party. So there's the potential, as I understand it, for opposition members, independents, to say, well, I'm not quite sure how I'm going to vote on this because I don't have enough facts in front of me. So what I'd like to do is put an inquiry forward and have an inquiry conducted so that I can be presented with unbiased data, unbiased fact, and then that'll put them in a position that they can vote on it confidently. Because at the moment, from what I'm hearing and being told, you know, some of these politicians put their bits and pieces up on social media. It's easier to follow. There's no confidence in what is being presented by the Liberal Party. So people are going to, you know, their own people don't want to support it in a lot of ways too. So,
okay, so yes, because I know Vince Tarzia, he's been sitting on the fence, and he said that he would, if it's a stalemate, he'll vote against it.
Yep.
He said that on social media, which I think's a good step forward. And I guess he's
a brave step forward, you know, for someone inside that building to say, well, I don't believe in it, then it's an amazing statement for him to take.
Yep. So, which is pretty good. Now, the thing is, do you think many of the Liberal Party, I've heard that some of the Liberal Party are against this?
Yep.
They are?
Yeah, that's what I've heard. And the few meetings I've had with some are I would say, I'm trying to be polite here, I wouldn't say they're savvy enough to understand it. And I don't think, we're talking about something that's very, very complex.
Yeah, very complicated. I mean, even doing the back of the envelope numbers, I got it wrong there, and I've been a property investor.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right. And this is the sort of thing, that can be looked at in many, many different ways, and there's lots of different opinion on it, and there's lots of different advice on it, and getting it right is so critical. But what we know, and the people that are in tune with how land tax does work and how it's calculated and what the impacts are, we looked at that proposition. And I think within an hour knew that this was doomsday for the state if it got through how it was being presented. So hence the pushback began rather quickly. So if people that don't have access to the data but know how the system works are able to make a call so quickly, it's concerning that legislation's been put forward that's going to have such a dramatic impact on mum and dads, and every person in the state's going to be affected by it. Even the people you highlighted before, that they're going to be paying less in land tax, they're still going to be paying more for petrol, more for fruit and vegetables, more for haircuts and so on. So they will be affected. Is a tax that will impact on everyone, and it's the Liberal Party has said that they've use the averages of the other states to come up with their new position on it. And I've done a quick calculation here at a $2 million land holding, we're double what the average of the rest of Australia would be. So, even that to say, it's the average, it's not. And I think inside the Liberal Party, a lot of people have blindly bought into what's been told and the language around things that have been sold. We're dropping the rate. Well, that's great. You're dropping the rate, but you're changing the way you calculate it. So in any maths equation, if you move the division and the multiplication sign around, you get a different outcome. Like, it doesn't matter what the numbers are. You change the numbers, you change the way you make the calculation, you get different answers. So it's a bizarre proposition, I think, that has been poorly thought out. The Labor Party knocked this back 8 times, from what I've been told. 8 times this was knocked back as a proposition.
The Labor Party itself.
The Labor Party from Treasury, when the Labor Party were in power, Treasury presented this to the Labor Party. On 8 occasions it was knocked back. The first time they presented to the Liberal Party, they grabbed it. Under the guise of stopping tax rorters and people abusing loopholes, and it's only going to be a few people that we're going to catch.
So the Labor Party rejected this. Interesting. Okay,
that's what I'm told.
So I mean, I heard I read in Daily that Rob Lucas admitted that land taxpayers will be worse off under the new legislation. So he had actually admitted it. Because I know Marshall's saying that people are better off, but Lucas is saying they're worse off. They should. They talk to each other today.
I read that article as well. I'm not quite sure if he says exactly that, but that's certainly the tone of that. And I had friends that were at the meeting on the Friday at the North Adelaide Football Club, where the Treasurer said, "Well, if we don't get this through, I'll have to work out other ways of raising revenues." So again, go back to one of your earlier points.
That's an interesting comment. Yep, go.
Yeah, if this is about reducing tax, why do you have to look at other ways of raising income? If you're about reducing land tax, why does the budget have increases in land tax collections for the next few years?
Yeah, look,
it's just not true. And maybe the Treasurer 16 years ago, we didn't have Twitter, we didn't have Facebook, we didn't have the internet in the space that it's got now. The communication is very different. Maybe he's been caught out thinking that it's 16 years ago and he can just say what he likes and no one's going to be able to fact check it. But
but they can, yes.
And quickly.
So the thing is, I think that people are a lot more educated these days. That's the fact of it, right? People are a lot more informed and more educated. And I think the time of politicians bullshitting and treating us like idiots is gone. It's finished. I really think that most South Australians are quite smart. Doesn't matter which part of the segment of the population they are. And I think people know when someone's lying, you know, and I really personally think that I don't care if it's Labor or Liberal. I don't want anyone in power lying to me saying, oh yeah, this is drink the Kool-Aid, it's good for you. And then trying to, because, you know, at the end of the day, I don't want that, right? And I really think that what we need is a transparent, honest government that works for the people and tries to make South Australia a better place. I don't care who they are, Liberal or Labor. The important thing is, are they working for the state? Are they doing a good job? Are they being transparent and honest? Because I mean, I think part of what happened with in America when people told, you know, Hillary didn't vote Hillary in and voted Trump in, even though Trump, you know, you could love him or hate him, but he's out there, he's crazy, but he says what he thinks. Right?
Yeah,
and people,
I guess that it's got conviction, and you know, people buy into that conviction, and that's I'd dearly love to see that in not just South Australia but Australia as well. You know, someone that's got that Jacinda Ardern style about them, where you can follow them over the hill. You know,
you look at Jeff Kennett, right? When Jeff Kennett took over Melbourne, if you look at that graph where South Australia and Adelaide and Melbourne, they're almost similar. Then suddenly Jeff Kennett comes in, and then Melbourne's just like bang, 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 going way above us. And now Melbourne and Sydney are equal. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
pretty equal.
Well, Melbourne's a different world. Melbourne's a different world to what Adelaide is now, which is, you know,
it wasn't for 30
years,
3 generations. I mean, in the 70s, South Australia had the best credit rating in Australia. We had a AAA credit rating. We were very powerful. We had a very big manufacturing base. We had a progressive government. We were actually progressive. Now we're sort of backwards, really are. It's crazy.
Well,
I mean, you look at
not too many firsts in South Australia. There's a lot of we'll wait and see what everyone else is doing and then just copy what they're doing. Which
we used to be first. We used to be first. We used to be first. We used to do a lot of things first. I mean, I think, which was fantastic. And unfortunately, we're not like that anymore. And we really need to get our edge back. You know, it's very, very important because you look at countries that have reduced their tax rate. Singapore, Monaco, Panama, they've got lots of money coming in and lots of dollars in the tax because when you reduce taxes, you get a bigger tax base, you get more money. You know, the government wants more money. They need to be more competitive because South Australia, we're competing with every other state. That's what we're doing. And whenever we add a tax on, it's like we've got a race and we've all got cars. And every time we put more tax on, we're putting more weight in the back of the car. And you know, and our government's like, okay, we're going to win this race. Let's put 20 kilos of lead in the back of the car. Let's put another 20 kilos and just keep doing it. We can't win the race with laid down of tax. It's not going to happen. You know, we've got the highest unemployment rate in Australia at the moment.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people that have stopped investing. You know.
And you know, I know people that are owner occupiers of their land, and they've already identified who's going to be let off if this land tax gets through, because they're not going to keep employees if this land tax gets through. So if this gets through, that employment number is going to go up even higher, and it just baffles me and a lot of other people that this hasn't been thought about. Like that, it's not even a consideration. That it's just a pure out and out money grab. That is unnecessary. It's unnecessary.
Okay, so okay. Liberal Party have been in for one term. Now I've heard some rumours they're calling Marshall one term or something like that.
Well, even today, there's a rumour that he's there was even a rumour today, very strongly on social media, that he's being challenged as we speak. So, you know, he may not come Friday. He might not even be the leader. So,
personally, I don't think it's going to happen. Not in lose leadership. I don't think the land tax is going to happen the way they propose it. I think there's too many people against it. I don't think it's going to happen. And I think all they've done is stall everyone and slow the economy down for nothing, because this is the challenge. Market sentiment is so important when it comes to the economy and the property market, those two things. Now, people are unsure. they do nothing. They sit on their hands because they can't do anything. You can't invest in property or hire more staff or expand if you don't know what's going on. You need to be clear on what's going on, because let's face it, investing and having a business is risky.
Yep.
Not easy.
Yep.
So you've got to do the other thing. And the fact of it is, even if nothing happens, we've already stuffed up the economy for several years and wrecked the employment rate. Look at it's gone sky high. Now, even if nothing happens and tomorrow Marshall goes, nah, I was only joking, only kidding, I'm not going to do that. Yeah. Guess what? We're still going to take us a year or two to recover, which is crazy. Yeah. And as the leader of our state, he should be aware of this and try not to stop us or put any blocks in, because he should be trying to push us forward and help us grow. So, okay, so we talked about the Liberal Party infighting, and maybe there's some challenges, but we've got one other thing. I mean, what about Labor? What about the what's happening? Because I know a lot of people that were staunch Liberal supporters that spent money in the Liberal Party and they've done a lot for the Liberal Party. You know, they're very pissed off. They feel betrayed, and they're really pissed off. And a lot of them, do you think they're going to swing to Labor? Yeah. How's it coming? Because I mean, look, there's some people in the electorate, like the city of Adelaide. I mean, Rachel Sanderson, she's got like what? She won by 100 seats or so.
Not many votes at all.
Not many votes at all. So I mean, she's right on the edge. So there's a few of them right on the edge. I mean, if I was one of those people, I'd be pretty scared, because it doesn't take much of a swing to lose where you're at.
Yeah, and that's where I guess the confusing part about the human mentality is, like, how long do these people toe the party line, knowing that it's to their own detriment? You know, not only the detriment of their constituents and their supporter base, but themselves personally. So there is I think, you know, there's a lot of chat about, you know, specifically who's being, you know, earmarked to not be around in a couple of years' time when the next election occurs, simply because they've upset too many people, and we haven't even got to that start yet. We haven't got to the starting line, but people are handing in their membership cards. You know, like they're that disenfranchised, and the trust has been broken in 18 months. 18 months is all that it's taken.
Liberal haven't been in power very long at all. And they've caused a big shitstorm, massive. Now, I mean, can Marshall redeem himself?
I
mean, can Lucas and Marshall redeem themselves? Or do they have to lose their head? I mean, because Lucas said, if you don't like it, sell your property and, you know, F off, right? I mean, that was pretty. I heard about that. And that's pretty crazy.
Yeah,
but I mean,
isn't that a wonderful way to encourage investment in South Australia? Tell people to move out.
Yeah, he told people to move out, which is, you know, at the end of the day, I think that the government is voted in by the people, and they're there to represent us, not tell us to move out, personally. But he could have said that. He could have said that in the heat of the moment. And look, everyone can do something stupid, and obviously that was stupid, and maybe he regrets it now. And I'm personally, you know, I'm a forgiving person personally, but I know there's a lot of people out there that aren't. And I'm wondering, can Marshall redeem himself? Does he have to get Lucas to take the fall and resign? Is that going to help, or
Well, Mark,
how can the Liberal Party resurrect themselves? I mean, you know.
Well, maybe, and that's why you're seeing these rumours of leadership challenges, you know, getting around today. Maybe the party is trying to work out how they can salvage themselves, because, you know, remember Rob Lucas, this isn't his first rodeo. This is the guy that gave us the emergency services levy when he was last in, which was only supposed to be for one. Yeah, this is the guy that gets it to a Chinese entity that doesn't pay land tax or doesn't pay tax at all in Australia, and yet charges us the highest electricity rates in the world. Right? This is the track record of this person. So the track record is not glorious.
Track record is not that good, is it? You know what I mean?
No, it's you know, it's surprising that he's in the role.
How does a person like him get in the position of power that he's in? How does that work?
I don't know. I've never been one to understanding politics, but there's clearly, you know, things that are done and things that are said. And
I've heard that you know, he's ready to resign anyway, and he wants to do this final thing and then tell everyone where to go.
Well, I think he's put it on the record. He's not going to make it to the next election. He's going to retire before then. So even more reason to question why bring in these huge, drastic, destructive changes that are going to decimate so many people and so many families. Why do that? I don't understand.
Okay, well, when I look at this sort of thing, it doesn't make sense. But when you look at a situation, one of the big things you say is who benefits, right? Because if Lucas and Marshall are pushing this so hard and telling us it's great, we're all going to save money, it's awesome, and really fighting the party, fighting their constituents, fighting everyone. I mean, there must be something really big to gain for them to fight it and push it so hard, right? I mean, you wouldn't do it for nothing. You'd be stupid to, why would you fight this for nothing? Why would you be going, look, you know, we're going to save you money. You don't want us to save you money. We're going to keep pushing and put these land tracks things through to save you money. Like, that sounds like, you know, sounds a bit weird. What have they got to gain, I wonder?
Well, that's right. And, you know, a friend of mine keeps saying there's an ulterior motive, but there's nothing that presents itself as being clear, whether it's vindictiveness to from one individual to a group of people, whether it's instructions on a national level to say, well, you're the only state that doesn't tax their land in such and such a way. Sort that out. I don't know what the thinking is. It's certainly ill thought out, and it's nowhere near equitable to what the other states have got in place.
It's ridiculous. We get charged more for everything. We pay more electricity. We pay more payroll tax. We pay more land tax. It's just crazy. The thing is,
bin taxes, council rates, you know, water.
We pay more for everything. More stamp duty, more everything. So the fact of it is, I mean, if I was the Liberal Party, I would have maybe stayed in power for at least one term, done a few good things before I said, oh, hold on a second, we have to do this. They should have maybe saved it for a little bit later if they're going to planning on doing this. Maybe they addressed it too soon.
Well, and that's what happened last time they were in power. They tried to do too much too quickly and really tipped the apple cart over to the point where people just didn't understand what was going on, and that was the end of it. And that was 17 years ago.
So they prematurely did it again.
Well,
very premature going in there. Just you got to be very strategic with this sort of stuff.
Yeah, you've got the fisheries guys offside. You've got the farmers offside with the GMO stuff that they've allowed to happen.
I can't believe
people offside. There just seem to be more and more the nurses and the doctors are offside with all the job cuts and so on. You just seem to be picking fights with a lot of people about some serious topics. And I don't know, maybe it is. Maybe you get some wins on the board before you start, swinging for the fence. You get your eye in first and start, know.
The fact of it is, I mean, you can't piss off all the people that vote for you or even the ones that don't vote for you, because it's not going to work. You still need to do that. So with this sort of like, if there could be a swing, do you think these staunch Liberal Party voters that are pissed off, and some of them are really pissed off, I've spoken to a few people and they are angry. And they're really angry, and I can see why. You've
got people going out and registering their own political parties, George. Like, this is just...
Yeah, but I mean, if they're going to do it, they should really do it in a strategic way, because all you need to do is win 1 or 2 seats.
Absolutely, but this is the flavour that's out there, is that people are that angry. They want to go head to head with these guys in the political sphere. Like, this is extraordinary stuff.
So
to me. Like,
I know it's amazing. So do you think that Labor will block it?
I think, this is my personal take, is that it'll won't see the light of day. I can't see it. I think.
But do you think Do you think Labor are thinking, hold on a second, we don't need a lot more votes. We've got this little target group of disenfranchised. Do you think the Labor are going to start courting these people that are pissed off of Liberals?
That's already happening. That's already happening. The meetings are already going on. The deals are already being done, and from an observer's point of view, Labor's strategy seems to be do nothing. They don't actually have to do anything. They're in opposition and don't actually have to turn up.
Wow.
It's
They're just letting
amazing.
Liberals do all the work themselves.
The Liberals have put themselves on the rotisserie. They've tied their feet in their hands, and they've put the apple on the mouth themselves, and they're off spinning away on the fire. And Labor are just watching it happen. It's just extraordinary.
It's crazy. I mean, I personally think when you've got all this, people switching parties and all this and discontinuity and having one government in for one term and then leaving, I think it's not good for the state. You know what I mean? We're better off sticking to one government a little bit longer and actually doing something and getting momentum, because there's no momentum in one term, unfortunately. You're not going to do much, and regardless for Liberal or Labor, we need a strong government that's going to actually help the state. And, I don't know who is going to do a worse or better job anymore. I'm fascinated, you know what I mean? But I really think we need to do something, I hope, I really hope that the Liberal Party just, gets a bit of sense of humility, goes, hold on a second.
With the Treasurer's said too many times to too many people, this is, he's in a consultation period, yet he's not prepared to listen to anyone. The language is just extraordinary.
I think government needs to listen to the constituents. So, yeah.
Well, of course they do. Otherwise, they're not government for very long. And I think that's what some of these people you mentioned that are in fringe seats, they need to start paying attention to what's going on, and not be led, down the wrong path by someone who's not going to be there to stand by their side in a couple of years' time. That person's off to the beach, whereas these other people are going to be left wondering what happened.
They're going to be held, because if Lucas is planning on retiring, he doesn't give a shit anyway. And these other people are going to be left holding the baby.
You'd like to think people in those sorts of positions do actually care about what they're doing.
Of course they must.
I can't see that from this situation, though, because this is not coming from a place of care. This is not coming from a place of making things better. This is coming from a place of destruction and untold long-term damage to the state. This is, the circles that I walk in, the relationships I have with people, they're down tools. There's no more investing in South Australia. I myself getting phone calls from tradespeople. Have you got any work? Oh, I haven't had phone calls like that for 10, 15 years. Normally it's you've got to trace your trades up. Normally you've got to chase people. People do not have work out there. They're not working at the moment in the property industry.
And the fact of it is, the economy is doing it tough in South Australia, and because of that, and because of the instability, I mean, I'm getting all our members to invest in Queensland because we're much safer up there. Wait till all this blows over. I'm not going. I think sooner or later, Adelaide's going to bounce back up because it has to. Because look how low it is. But it's still. I mean, I've been talking about Adelaide bouncing back. I've been waiting for it to bounce back for 5 or 6 years now, but it just hasn't. It just doesn't want to start. And
January, and I just looked at what Brisbane had become versus what Adelaide was.
I've lost you there. I've lost you.
Lost me? I've got you.
Do it again.
You got me?
Yep. Start again.
Yeah. I was in Brisbane earlier this year in January, and had the realisation standing on the banks of the river there about how grown up Brisbane had become versus where Adelaide has stagnated. It just made me realise how much opportunity was in Adelaide, how much growth there was. The rubber band has got so far to stretch. And then we've got this to deal with. We've got low interest rates, and this is the frustration that we've got. The people that I hang out with and work alongside and talk to every day, we should be talking about all these amazing things we're doing, all these deals that we're doing, all the good things that we're doing for the state, all the infrastructure we're putting in, all the jobs that our buildings are creating. We should be talking about all those things, but we're not. We're talking about land tax.
Yep.
We're talking about leaving the state. We're talking about moving capital interstate or offshore. You know, like this is the reality of the situation. You know, people, you know, you've got career investors in South Australia that are just saying, that's it, I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, and it's put such a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths that they don't want to do it anymore. They don't want to be here. These are the people that have fought for South Australia for decades, tried to make it a great place to live, tried to make it, you know, fun and exciting, and, you know, bring in enlivened public spaces and so on. Then they're heartbroken. They're really heartbroken. You know, as am I. You know, like I just it upsets me that I just, in such a quick space of time, I don't think of South Australia in the light that I did at the start of the year. You know.
Yeah. Look, I'm hoping that the government is smart enough to be a little bit flexible, and hopefully with a bit of consultation and getting all great minds together, we can think of a solution and fix the budget problem and fix the land tax issue all at the same time. Who knows?
Yeah.
But
well, you know, George, this, you know, like me, you've studied plenty of other people, and all I can tell you is the people that are in Parliament right now aren't smart enough to do this on their own. They need to go and consult with the captains of industry and say, right, how do we do this? What do we do? How do we fix it? What do we need to do?
Mm-hmm.
Telling those people what to do, that doesn't work, because you haven't walked the 1,000 miles in their shoes.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't built property empires. You haven't built amazing global businesses. They haven't done these things. They haven't run efficient businesses. They haven't been involved in startups or fintech or whatever it might be. They haven't done that. And these are the people they need to get in the room to say, what do we need to do? What do we need to do? I think the answer really is get out of the way and let people showcase their skill sets and be given permission to bring so much excitement to the place. And it's just, it doesn't seem to be happening, not from my point of view anyway.
Okay. Look, Ben, I appreciate you coming and joining us on the podcast. Thank you so much. If anyone's got any comments or anything else, please type in below and we'll get back to you. And thank you so much. We'll talk soon.
All good. Cheers, George.
Cheers. Okay. Bye-bye.